Pierre, in his book Metaphysical Aesthetics of Photography, explains beautifully the need for art as human beings. He mentions that art is not an option, but a necessity. It gives me great pleasure to introduce two organizations that have dedicated their existence towards the development of art and culture in their own ways. New Acropolis is a school of philosophy that is present today in over 50 different countries. We are based on three pillars of philosophy, culture, and volunteering. Philosophy, in the classical sense, which is not just learning intellectually, but also living in line with wisdom. Culture, because culture is in many ways the legacy that humanity leaves for us through the years, and is a celebration and a reminder for what it really means to be human. And volunteering, because that is the natural progression of the manifestation of one's learning, or fulfilling one's potential as a human being. Avid Learning is the public programming platform and cultural arm of the SR Group, and has conducted over 450 programs and connected with more than 40,000 individuals since its inception in 2009. Driven by the belief that learning never stops, Avid's multiple formats like workshops, panel discussions, gallery walkthroughs, and festival platforms create a dynamic and interactive atmosphere that stimulates intellectual and creative growth across the fields of culture and heritage, literature, art, and innovation. We're very honored and excited to have Pierre with us in Mumbai and here this evening. To many of us at Acropolis, Pierre is someone we draw immense inspiration from. Pierre started his journey of experimenting with the camera in 1976, driving a taxi in Paris by night to support his passion for photography during the day. In 1986, Pierre moved to Israel, where he founded the local chapter of New Acropolis, which has grown to 10 centers across the country since. Pierre has practiced and taught photography for more than 25 years, and has written 3 books on the subject of photography as a path to understanding philosophy, and has had his works shown in many galleries across the world. Pierre, may I ask you to come on stage, please?
Thank you very much. Welcome to all. Thank you to all of you to be here. And first thing I have to say, I hope you will understand my English. Because, like Trisha said, I'm traveling quite a lot worldwide. I was not last week, but 10 days ago in Spain. And my mother language is French, and I'm living in Israel, speaking Hebrew, so it's always like a mixed salad, in my head. And I will try to speak slowly. If some words it's really a pleasure to be here in Mumbai again, because it's the first time. And it's time to present this third book, this last book about photography. But it's a pleasure because it is Mumbai. It's a pleasure because I always like to come here. I feel that India is very inspiring, at least for me. But it's also a pleasure because it's a book which, in a way, synthesis, make a synthesis. Well, the 2 main aspects of my life. I mean, philosophy and photography. The previous books were more about photography. The first one was about photography and how to use maybe the camera as a media, but in the simplest way. And the second one was more about art and art in general, not only photography, art and, well said, the political influence of art in the society. But this one is about photography and philosophy. Or maybe I will say philosophy and photography, because I put the philosophy like the mean, like the and the photography like the mean to reach the end. Let's explain this in little words, small words, because if I have only 20 minutes, it will be... So, you know, somebody called me, some people call me FIFO. I'm not a philosopher, I'm not a photographer, I'm a FIFO. It means philosopher, photographer. So it's something new, you know, it's a new career. There is still yet no university of FIFO, but it's something new. So it's the link between philosophy and photography. So what would be philosophy? Philosophy, just like Risha said, is not just learning, or learning in academy. What about other philosophers, ancient philosophers, what they wrote, what they say. It doesn't mean that you cannot learn philosophy in academies. It's interesting, it's okay, it's good. But it doesn't make you a philosopher. You're not a philosopher because you know what other philosophers have said or thought. You're a philosopher when you reproduce inside yourself the same meanings, the same way of living, the same thought. I mean, in philosophy is by definition love. Philo is love in Greek. Of Sophia is wisdom. I mean, love of wisdom. And when you love something, when you learn to act, love is not about knowing. Love is about living. Love is a feeling. Love is a sentiment. Love is something that will take the wool of yourself and your life. And if you love the wisdom, I mean, you will have to touch the wisdom, you will have to live the wisdom, you will try to be wise. And what does it mean to be wise? Or to approach the wisdom? It means to live, maybe, and not just accept to survive. It means that many times, in many situations, you know why you are doing this, you know why you are feeling this, you know why you are thinking this, you know what is your place in the world, and you feel the relations, and another way of telling it, really being tricky, because there are only 15 minutes or maybe, okay? Usually I speak 3 hours, but it's okay. So, I will say that you know yourself, maybe like Socrates, an ancient Greek philosopher said, and to take it with some aspect of the Indian tradition, because we are in India, you said that you know your Svadhyam, and Dharma is and I think that we, as humanity, one humanity, we have the same God, share the same God, we share the same path of evolution. But different version of the past. Some of us are modern, some of us are academic, some of us are more but we are in the same place, but not at the same place. So, to know yourself, to live, is to understand where you are. Because if you understand where you are, then you know your needs. Sentiment not to lose your life, and more than everything else you will be happy, which is maybe the best thing that can occur to one of us in life. But speaking of philosophy, so this is something very subtle. It's like a metaphysical concept. It's invisible. It's the essential, but we cannot see it. Somebody likes sympathy. Essential, the most important is exactly invisible to the heavens. So, how shall we make visible the invisible? Here comes is the photography just about visible? The photography will have visible images, and maybe more than images. I'm talking about one very specific aspect of photography. I'm not talking about photography in studio. I'm not talking about photography, fashion photography, or I'm talking about street photography. Maybe after the talk, I will not develop it now, but the talk with Amit, you can ask me if you want. Question exists, we respond, but we know. So, photography and street photography is to capture fragments of reality. But to capture them, in a glance, because when you are in the street, things occur. there's always a movement. You cannot stop life. You cannot stop the movement. So you cannot say, okay, let me think. There is something interesting. You have to see what is okay, let me prepare the light. No, but there's no light. There is the sun, and maybe there is the mousson, so there is no more light. I don't know. So you have to clap. You have to take the picture. You have the time to think about it, because only if you take 1 second to think about it, does it worth to take this picture or not? It's gone. So you cannot use your intellect, what you may call in India kama manas, I mean the mind of desire, and you have to act without all those filters, which are the filters of the mask, the personality. Our personality, we personalize mask, but it's not us. It is the mask we use to manifest ourselves, to perform in the world. Physical, energetic, prana, the emotional, the intellect. It's not us. We use this. It's like a camera. The camera will make visible, because it's like a mask, something which is invisible. And when we feel that there is something, it's not a lower feeling. It's something nice, so we have to master the because we cannot take it automatic. No automatic smartphone will not camera. It's something else. Smartphone will take images, but no photographies. There's a difference between images and photography. So you have to do it in manual, because you will tell the camera what you want to do, and the camera has to serve you, not you the camera, because if it's just pushing a button, you serve the camera, and it's not photography, it's something else. So you have to manage it, you have to integrate the technical, you have to be in control and to forget the technical, and it's just like music. I mean, a musician where somebody will hear a sound in his head, you will not think about, okay, where do I do this sound, do, re, mi, fa, where is it? No. You hear this in your head, and like you know exactly, for example, in the piano, where to put your fingers to reproduce the sound. The camera is the same. You see something, you have to instinctively to know, okay, what lens, what focus, what shutter, what speed, clack, you take it. And after you look, and after you recognize, because you have the time, because you have already captured it. And you look at this, and you will say, okay, is there something over or beyond what I see? And if it works, again, I don't have time to develop what does it mean, I have to do it. Well, does it mean? Maybe a question of one that was exactly. If it works, there is something else. And what should be this something else? It's not something that we can describe or explain with word, with description. I would say it's a tension. I would say it's like a paradox. Because if you pass in front of a photography and you look at the picture and you say, okay, I understand, I recognize, and you go on, it's not enough. You have to see the photography to recognize, but at the same time, what is this? It must be a symbol of interrogation. Something fits, doesn't fit. There is more than recognize. Recognize, but there is an interrogation. And this interrogation will force us to look at the photography to create a bridge, I would say, between ourselves and the photography, and to recognize this tension. The subject itself is not so important. What is important is the tension. The tension will be like something that will awake consciousness. It's like in Buddhism, for example, you have the idea of the string, of the vina, which is the instrument, the musical instrument. Buddha was, when he was in Siddhartha Gautama, was playing, okay? And it said that if the string is not tense enough, there is no sound. And you can try with a guitar, not to tense the string, boom, 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 there's no sound. Now, if you tense the string too much, it will break. There is no sound. But if you tense the string at the right tension, there is the right sound. It's like sattva. It's the right equilibrium. It makes the right sound. And this is something, if it's right, if it's the tension, if it has the tension, it will capture the attention. If it is right, it is, this is something that I develop in the book, if it is right, it is also just, it is also good, and it is also beautiful. Because like somebody like Platon, another Greek photographer, said, he understood the relation between the right, the just, the truth, and the beautiful. Now, philosophy is about truth. Photography or art is about beauty. The tension doesn't because manifestation brings us into the world of the truth, the beauty, the just, the which means something which is it means. How much time do I have? 6 minutes. Okay. What does it mean? What does it but something that you not recognize because you take it without recognition. Necessity, not the actional subjectivity. This thing will emanate. This art, this picture in this case, this photography, but it will be any art. It can be music, it can be sculpture, it can be a book. I work with photography. You can work with something else. Everybody can do his own art, you can find his own art. These things, you know, the metaphysics is this, is the signification of life beyond what we understand and beyond what we see. It's something which is close to the invisible. And the signification of life is maybe the most important thing that we can approach in this life. Not to understand it. It's not about to understand it. It's about to be it. It's about to live it. Happiness is not something to understand. Happiness is something to be. And like I said at the beginning, love is not a thing to understand. It's something to achieve. It's something to live. You know, if I, for example, try to teach love, to explain love, let's imagine somebody who doesn't know what is love. Okay. If this person is not stupid, this person will understand something with some words to explain what is love. So imagine this person who will tell me, okay, I understood. I know what it is. I understand what you, I hear what you say. So now that I understand this, I don't need to experiment it because I understand it. But of course it is wrong. It is not about understanding. It's about being, to be. And what is fantastic with art, I think any type of art, again, I'm talking about photography, but it's not just photography, is that you create a relation between you and beauty. And when you create this relation, intimate relation between yourself and beauty, and I say again, not the subjectivity of what I, myself, as personality, like or don't like, but what is the beauty which exists, which is in the world. This beauty, this relation between myself and beauty will emphasize, will awake, will make grow need, a necessity to approach truth, to approach good, to approach right. So, and here we are finding again the relation between art or beauty, in this case photography, and philosophy, also wisdom, because philosophy is leading to wisdom. And it's I would say that it's a way of life. Here, in this way of life, in this process, the process itself also is more important than the result. It's like something that you have in India, in a book that I think you know, it's called the Bhagavad Gita, it's a known book, okay? In the Bhagavad Gita, in the Gita, Krishna tells to Arjuna, you have right to the action, only to the action, not to the fruit of the action. Well, the meaning, you have right to the process. The process itself is more important than the result. And sometimes you go in the street and you have to dare to not be attached to the results. You have the camera, and if you take the photography this way, I mean, if you're not looking for the result, sometimes you miss it because it's manual, because it's difficult. But you're living something. There is this thing, I want to take it and not to take it. I don't think I have to work instinctively, I have to act on it. And after you look, and you say, oh, I missed it. I was wrong with my shutter, I was wrong with my speed, I was wrong with my focus, I missed it. I should better have done it in automatic. If it was in automatic, I would get the result. No, because you would have the result, but not the process. What is the most important? The result is only the visible. The process is the invisible. The best, maybe, is when the invisible process will get the visible product so you can share it with other people. Because when they will look at the product, they will be in touch with the process which was the source of the product. But if you have only the product, because it was talking in automatic, you won't have the process. So people will see it, but it is nothing behind what you see. It will be only visible and not invisible. And what I wish for, not for me, also for me, because it's a non-ending process, for me and for everyone, it's to, I would say, to find this invisible, to dare look for the invisible, to dare not to find, because I cannot assure a result. To find will be the result, but to dare look for it, to dare find your own Swadharma, to dare look for your happiness. And if there is something in life that in your heart you feel like a need for beauty, like a need for equilibrium, like a need for meaning for life, like a mean for happiness, looking for this need, responding to this necessity, this need of art, believe me, is more important than anything else. All the rest will pass. All the rest and will die. But the metaphysical, the invisible, this sentiment, not the temporary emotion, but a permanent sentiment, the meaning of why we are here, this is why we are here. So this is why it should lead us in life, and not the visible. Look for the invisible beyond the visible, and you will find the meaning of life. And when you will begin to live, I'm not saying you don't live, okay? But when somebody begins to live, well, he'll understand how he was not living before, how he was just surviving. The problem is that we don't understand that we survive. We are survival until we don't begin to live. So we have to dare to jump in the unknown. So take your dare, I just have to say, take your courage. Take your courage in your hand and just jump. We have to jump in the unknown. It's always something like a dark place, because the evolution is about I would say, the expansion of the consciousness, and what is more of my unconsciousness is always for me dark, because my conscience is not there. But only if I walk on a dark place, I will bring my light in a place where now I am not conscious, or I will expand my consciousness. maybe we shall not end the path, we shall not reach the nirvana, we shall stay in the samsara. It's okay, but we shall be a little bit a step, or 2 steps, or 3 steps, it doesn't matter, more close to the meaning of life. We shall expand a little bit our consciousness, and I think it is the source of happiness. So, in one word, be happy. It depends only of each of us. It does not depend. It will be another lecture about this, but it doesn't depend of external influences. We are in control of our own happiness, of our own meaning in life, and I think that the artist, being an artist and a philosopher, but already an artist, is the way to achieve this or to approach this. Thank you very much.
For adding more depth and beauty to our own lenses.
I hope the English ones more or less. Okay.
Yes. I'd like to now invite Joran Barzilai, the National Director of New Acropolis India and the publisher of Metaphysical Aesthetics of Photography, on stage to join Pierre in the unveiling of the book. I would also like to invite Haryanto Mehta, Janki Shah and Manjula Nanavati, who have been responsible in the editing and designing of the book.
I want to say something. It's not proposed. The meaning of the book without the book. So it's about the meaning of the book, not the book itself.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to invite Amit Madheshiya on stage, please. A little introduction on Amit for those who aren't familiar with his beautiful works. Amit is a graduate in English literature from Hindu College, New Delhi, and works as an independent photographer in Mumbai. For his work on the traveling tent cinemas of India, he received the Arts Research Grant from India Foundation for the Arts, a fellowship from the Cluster of Excellence at Heidelberg University, and the Goethe Institute 50-year anniversary grant. This work won the World Press Photography Award, the Sony World Photography Award, and the Humanity Photo Awards. Amit's works have been shown in solo and group exhibitions worldwide. It's an honor to have you with us tonight. Please take a seat.
What do you want? Okay. So Amit told me he prepared some difficult questions.
I would like to begin our conversation with the early days in photography, and as it was also mentioned in your introduction that you were photographing in the day and all. Is that okay? Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah, so I would like to begin the conversation with your early days in photography when you were photographing during the day and driving the taxi in the night. And these are two very different situations, but in both you are out in the city, you're looking around, you are almost prowling, and you're almost led by chance in both these situations. So I'm curious to know how is it that two very disparate situations seemingly came to shape your vision of photography in the very formative vision when you started working?
Well, at the beginning, I was not a philosopher. Well, I was maybe a philosopher, but I didn't know. So I was not looking for philosophy. I was driving for photography, by photography. I was interested by photography. I remember my first camera was a Pentax MX. I'm still working with Pentax, so yours. And but it's not more an MX. It's another camera now. And I will say that I wanted to work in photography, so that's why I was working during the day in Paris with my photography, but you could not at this time, or I could not at this time, make a living for photography. So I was working as a taxi driver at night to make a living and to pay for my camera, the paper, the pellicles, the movies. But what is interesting is that I was working on the streets, and I remember I didn't took a lot of pictures, of photographs of people. Most of geometry of empty streets and buildings. I think I was afraid of facing people. I was afraid of to look at people. In reality, in India, it's not a problem. In Asia in general, not only in India, most of the Asian countries, it's quite the person who is respond in a nice way. But if you are in Europe, in France, well, it's a catastrophe, a nightmare. No, really, today I was 5 years ago in France for leading for a workshop, and we went with the students in the street 5 minutes to take some photography, and somebody took the pictures of a building in front. And we came back for the workshop, and 5 minutes after, the owner of the building in front came, very angry. Why did you take a picture of my house? You don't have the authorization to take a picture of my house. Please delete the picture of my house, or I make you a trial. I call the police. It's not possible. You don't have the right. I have the right. Okay. So my first advice, if you want to take pictures of street anywhere in the world but in France, it will be easier. And I went in Israel in '86, and when I arrived in Israel, I could not afford to continue to take pictures because I had to learn to integrate in the country. I had to learn the language. I didn't know Hebrew at the time, still today not really, but it's okay. And I had to find a work, so I was working like a worker in a place, because people told me when I arrived what you need to do. I said, okay, I'm a photographer, but there was no work. I was no working photographer. And I founded the school of photography, the school of philosophy in Acropolis, which is now already in many centers in Israel. And I had one student who was more or less interested. I thought he was interested by photography. So I sold him to the student my camera. And after my Pentax camera, my dear Pentax camera, and I found that 2 months later he sold it to make some money. It's him. It's this guy. So he was one of my first students in Israel, and 80 years ago he came here in India, from the same school in India. Thank you, everyone. And no, but he's a good guy. It's okay. And so I put the photography apart during something like 15 years, 13, 15 years, and after 13 years, well, I feel something in the like a need. You cannot stand. You cannot stand anymore not to take picture, not to touch a camera. And the school was working fine. Didn't need to be so. So I came back. I bought a camera, a Pentax, and I came back to photography. And from this time, I'm just combining together photography and philosophy. And it was fantastic because at the beginning I was only photographer. After I was only philosopher, and then was born the FIFO, the philosopher photographer.
Yeah, so it was during this time that you attended that lecture on alchemy, right?
That I?
You attended a lecture on alchemy and you got drawn towards philosophy.
Understand the English? It's my problem.
You attended a lecture on alchemy in philosophy.
In alchemy?
Yes.
Alchemy, yes. Sorry. No, this was in France. This was in France. I was a photographer, and I was looking. It's interesting because I was looking for meaning in life. I was not looking for philosophy because I didn't think it was in philosophy. Find this in philosophy. I was looking at a lot of different things, and I was a fan of alchemy. I didn't know nothing about alchemy. It was sounding nice. Alchemy is strange. It's maybe something. So I remember entering one big bookstore in Paris. It's called the Fnac. It's and you have hundreds of books on alchemy, and I look at all those books, and everyone explains something else different, and they say, okay, I'm got lost. I don't know what is true, and I don't know what is wrong. I need somebody who will guide me. I need somebody to explain me, to give me criteria, to distinguish between what is good and what is not, what is true and what is not. And I was in my taxi, and I was standing at a station, and I was waiting for the clients to come. And I saw a poster, tonight, alchemy of cathedrals. So I closed the taxi. I think one client wanted to come. I said, no, I'm not. And I went to the lecture, and I arrived late. I remember I was at the end, the last row, and I saw somebody giving the lecture. He was a philosopher. He is a philosopher, and nothing in what he said was new for me. I mean, I've read all the books about alchemy. It was a basic lecture, so I knew everything. But I was shocked because it was the first time I saw somebody. I had the real feeling that he was talking not about what he knows, but about what he lives. It was, it was from the heart, and it was in New Acropolis in France. And this person is Fernando Schwartz. He's the director of New Acropolis in France. He's my master since in philosophy, in life, I can say. And I registered to the class, and here I begin my travel to philosophy.
Yeah. So when you walked into this lecture, you were already a photographer. You were photographing on the streets of Paris. So did you find any some initial overlaps between these two fields, photography and philosophy? Is there something that you found very contrasting, or something that came together?
Well, I will say that he found it instead of me, but it's like tricky, because 2 months after I registered to the school, he was working with somebody who was making posters to advertise the activities of the school, the lectures and everything. And the guy who was doing this left for a reason I don't remember, but he was without anybody. And you have to remember, I'm talking about the year 79. No digital, no email, no network, and you said internet, people would say, what is it? Nobody knew what it is. And no cell phone. And he said, he was looking for somebody. He said, there is one guy who registered at school 2 months ago. He's a photographer. And at the time, to make posters, to make advertisements, was with, it's called in France, a banc de reproduction. I don't know how to say this in English. It's a film process, he was working with film process. So I said, okay, if he is a photographer, he knows how to work with laboratory. So I will work with him. I will ask him if he wants to work in the school to make those posters. So that was the link we found between photography and philosophy, but I didn't. And in reality, like I said, I began to interest myself to philosophy. I could not manage the both together. I left the philosophy, went to Israel, and after 15 years or 30 years after, linked the two. But not at the first time,
Okay. And when was it that you found or discovered Henri Cartier-Bresson, giant of modern photography? Because you cite very liberally Henri Cartier-Bresson in both your books. So, and it seems that he has been also an influence on you. So can you please discuss the kind of influence that he had on your aesthetic and practice? Cartier-Bresson. When was it that you found him?
From Cartier-Bresson, I think from the when I began to discover it, I don't remember the exact moment. But about the influence of Cartier-Bresson, it's for me, there is a lot of self-evident from Cartier-Bresson. Maybe the most evident story of this is his moment. There's something else. For me, really, it's this concept of this concept of he said, there is one photograph of Cartier-Bresson, one of his most famous. It's called Place de l'Europe or Derrière la Gare Saint-Lazare in French. It was in 1932, if I'm not wrong. It's a man which is jumping. A leap. Jumping over a leap. Yes? Taking a leap over a jump. Okay. He's leaping, jumping, and there's water, and he's in the air. Okay, most of you, I believe, so some of you so you can see it. But always people were asking how did you do? How did you take this photograph? Because somebody in the air. And we're talking about 1932, not the same technology. It was not easy, to do this. And he never wanted to explain, only 2 years before his death, with a German journalist who came in his house in France, in Paris. He said, okay, I will tell you. Oh, he will reveal the secret. And what did he say? He said he was passing through in the street, and there was a working place with a wall of wood. And in the wall, there was a hole. You can say it like this, in the wall, there was a hole in the wall. Okay. And he looked in the hole, which is in the wall, and he didn't saw the guy, because the guy wasn't there, of course. But he saw some metallic things, and he saw the water, and he said to himself, okay, it's interesting enough to take the picture. So he took his Leica. He had a Leica. I want a Leica. No, okay, he had a Leica, and he took the Leica, and he arranged the Leica, the shutter, the focus, anything. He put the Leica in the hole, which is in the wall, and he put the shutter. Click, without looking. And he sent the movie to the laboratory, came back after, film. He sent the film, yes, he sent the film to the laboratory, it came back after, and he saw the guy jumping, or leaping, or what you want. Okay, so the journalist said to Cartier-Bresson, but if I understand well, you didn't see the guy jumping. And Henri Cartier-Bresson said, no, I didn't see it. So the journalist said, but it means that it was only luck. And Henri Cartier-Bresson said, of course, it is always luck. It is only luck. But, and what is interesting, what is important is the but, okay? But you have to learn how to be lucky. And why it is so important? What does it mean? Because it means that there are rules to guide luck. Because if there were not rules, there was only coincidence, it will not be possible to learn. And what does mean Cartier-Bresson? He means that in the street, around us in the world, there are a lot of relations between us and the world. And there are a lot of opportunities. We always have a lot of opportunities. A lot of things occurs, but we don't see them because we don't pay attention, because we don't have the right concentration, because we are working in the world without being in relation with the world. Okay? We are in our fantasy, we are disconnected. So he said, try to improve your attention and don't expect something, because if you expect that this will occur, you will not react to this or to this or to this or to this, because you are waiting for this, and this will not occur. It's like the people who are going out in the morning with a camera, and they say, I want to see today, I don't know, a guy jumping, let's say, a guy jumping over water. So he will look for where is the guy jumping? And there will be a lot of other things, But he will not see them because he's just looking for the guy jumping. So don't look for nothing. Just be open, have your mind open, and be open to all the opportunities. And you will catch the opportunity, you will see this, you will see this. And somebody else will say, oh, you have luck. You capture a lot of things today, but it's not luck. It's capacity to recognize the opportunities. I think that it was his things when he's talking about luck. So it depends on us.
Yeah. In fact, this photograph came to be known as one of the most representative photographs of the decisive moment. But what Bresson, usually the word that he used to describe this moment is intuition. And intuition, is it the same thing that you were talking about, luck? And how is it that, how do you tie this in with your philosophical bent of mind? How do you see intuition as part of our daily lives? And how it helps?
Yes, I can also understand the intuition of Cartier-Bresson. You know, I will try to explain it with something of the Indian tradition, because we are in India, we are in Mumbai, so I will not use Greek words or something like that. Okay. In the Indian tradition, one way to speak of the Indian tradition, you can speak about 7 levels of reality in the world, in the cosmos, in the manifested cosmos, let's say. I would say from the higher one to the lower one, Atma, which is the one, the unity, the will, okay? Buddhi, which is the light, which is the intuition. And after Manas, I will say the mind, but Manas is not the mind as intellect. Manas will be the intelligence. I mean, Manas is the ability to make the distinction between what is right and what is wrong. And this is intelligence. Intelligence is not know a lot. Intelligence is to know to use what you know, what you see, what you look, what you touch, to make the distinguish. So, and after, these are the fundamentals. Those will be, I will say, the 3 spiritual or essentials level of reality. And after you have 4 more, which are more like a shadow or a reflection of those 3 in the Maya, in the illusion. And we can talk about Kamamanas, will be the intellect, Linga, the emotions, Prana, the energy, and Stula, the physical body. So intuition is not a reflection, it's not a shadow. Intuition is the capacity to see, to capture, to get, to see, but not to see with the visible eyes, to get the reality in a glance, because you don't need time. There is a difference between intuition, for example, and fantasy. Fantasia is a product of the shadow, of the personality. You fantase, you feel you activate your mind, but your intellect, and you have fantasies. Intuition is the capacity to perceive, to get, to perceive what there is, what exists, the reality, beyond the visible and beyond what the physical eyes can see. So you are walking in the street, and if you have intuition, it's just you have the feeling that here there is something. You don't need to see it. You have the feeling that there is a tension. It's just like a change in the, I would say the change in the Matrix, if you saw the movie Matrix, okay? There's a change and you feel it. You have the intuition of there is something, not the fantasy. Feeling will be fantasy. Intuition, it's true. So you take your camera and tack, and you take the pictures. And if you had the real intuition, you look and you say, wow, that's great, you see? That's great. So if it was only fantasy, you say, okay, I don't understand why I took this. There is nothing here. This is fantasy. But intuition, tack, there is something. So I relate this to this decisive moment, because intuition is 1 second. It passed. You have to take it at the right moment. It's the right equilibrium in time and in space. And it is 1 fraction of seconds, because it's like, for example, in India, you have also, in your tradition, you have what is called the 3 gunas, which are the 3 way of action. So you can be tamas, which is not enough, let's say. You can have rajas, which is too much. So too much, you want it too much. Or tamas, you are indifferent, you don't pay enough attention, there's indifference. And sattva is the equilibrium, but it's the most difficult, because when you get to an extremism, not enough or too much, you know it. You are at the end of the rope, I would say, at the end of the path. The equilibrium, the sattva, is one moment, is one fraction of a second. The second is too much. There is always movement in life. You're going, this is here and it's gone. So you have to work with intuition, because you cannot work with the mind. The mind needs too much time to recognize and to know. If you recognize what you want to take in picture, it's gone. So Cartier-Bresson, for me, emphasizes this need to work with intuition, which is a spiritual. It's very interesting, because it's a spiritual capacity. More you will awake your spirituality, more you will have intuition. Atma Buddhi Manas, more you will have intuition, will, and intelligence, and less intellect. So philosophy or photography or art is not something intellectual, even if we're speaking with word and in an intellectual manner. But it is only the way to manifest the essential in this frame. But here we are speaking about art, we are not living art. If I want to live art, I stop to speak, I take my camera and I go in the street. It's something else. And we need the both.
So is this what draws you closer to street photography, this matter of chance, this intuition and, things which... Because in street photography, I mean, things happen, as you say, in the fraction of a second, and they just vanish. And is this the kind of the high that, for instance, I get a certain high when I get a certain image in the street, and I'm like, wow, I got this great image, and that is what pulls me back into the street every time. So is this what drives you, or is there something more to it, and something more that?
What drives me today, because it's also changed in the time, is the process, because I know that there is a lot of beauty in the world, harmony, and I think we are today, especially in a historical moment in the world, which is more dark. Also in Indian tradition, it's a Kali Yuga, it's not very... everybody happy, everybody quiet, everybody good. There's a lot of problems, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of loss of spirituality, loss of light. So what drives me today is the process. It's two aspects. Individual, I would say egoist, for me, is to be in the street and the camera oblige me not to be asleep when I walk in the street. Because if I have the camera, I am like, so every moment I can lose it. Maybe an opportunity, maybe something, so I cannot sleep. So I awake my own spirituality, let's say. And it's also maybe in a less egoist, I hope, way, to when I capture something, to have something to share. Because I think the function of art, the meaning of art is not just to capture, that's it, it's to show, it's to emanate. It's like the sun, a good art, a photography of art will work by itself. You will look at it. I don't say that my photography is that art, but I say a photography of art, if you look at it, it will influence, it will give something. It's like the sun. The sun is, in many traditions, the symbol of spirituality, the God, the higher God, the spirituality. And what does the sun do? Or does or do? Do, does. What does the sun do? I can speak English better than you. What does the sun do, right? That's the way, right? Okay. So what does the sun do? Nothing. He is. The sun does not need to do anything to give the light, to give life, to give heat. He is. And it's nature to give. So art is the same. A picture of art, a photography of art, a piece of art, music, sculpture, what you want, give by itself, emanates by itself. So this is what I'm looking for, to produce, to find, to awake, to create those pieces, and they can give, but they don't give me. I consider that I don't create art. I don't think that nobody can create art. We are just channels. I mean, I capture something which is already in the reality, and I present it in the way that it will be visible for others. But it's not me. I'm just the one who take it and show it. That's it.
Yeah. You speak about beauty, and beauty is one of the central pillars of your book. Beauty as manifestation of the archetypal idea of beauty. So I'm just wondering, as a photographer, how can I see that, as in, because that is not in the tangible realm, that is in the metaphysical. So how is it that I can, as a photographer, can move towards that, and how is it that that emanation becomes visible to me? And
well, you have to add the fee to the fo. I mean, to the photographer, you have to add the philosopher. I think that it's a combination about the both. Because of this, I began the talk to say, okay, I'm not really a photographer, I'm not really a philosopher, but I consider myself a FIFO, which is a philosopher-photographer. If you keep the photography just like the technical aspect, the visible aspect, it will stay in the visible, so you will have something to show, but not always you will have a signification, a meaning behind this visible. Now, if you keep only the philosopher, but not the photographer, you will have the meaning. But if you don't have the photo or the art, the piece of art, you will not have the visible frame to transmit this invisible meaning. So FIFO is the meaning and the frame to transmit the meaning. But I think really that to be a philosopher, I don't think that you have to, like I said, you have to the academy to learn philosophy. I think that philosopher is the natural, for me it's a natural condition of the human being in one moment. If I, in short, recall what we know, for example, from Platon, a Greek philosopher, the myth of the cave, I will say all the myth of the cave because 3 hours I need, but okay. He's talking about people who are in chain. I mean, in the illusion. And we are all maybe in the illusion because we are looking for false light. We're not seeing the light. When we are looking the meaning of life in material needs or in fulfilling the personal desire, the desire of the personality, but not always our needs, the needs of the soul. So, in this moment, when people is at this stage, in reality, there is nothing to do. Just open the door, just present art, maybe, a piece of art, and wait. You have to wait that the need will awake in this person. And when the will awake, it does not every time, but when it will awake, you can help this person to discover this need. I will explain it in another way. One book from the Tibetan tradition is called The Voice of Silence. Silence? Silence? Silence. Voice of silence. I think you have to wait that people will hear this voice of silence. What is the voice of silence? It's the voice of the emptiness. The voice that something is missing. What is missing? The meaning of life. What is missing? Happiness. What is missing? The essential. So when people hear in his belly, somewhere in his life, the voice of silence, he will become to be a philosopher because naturally he will begin to look for the meaning of life. And I think, from my experience, one of the best ways, if not the best ways to find it, to express it, is through philosophy or through art. I'm trying to do the both, to combine philosophy and art. But it's a natural way. When somebody begins to feel this emptiness, he will try to fill it with meaning. And when people just begin to try to fill the emptiness in his life with meaning, he is a philosopher, because the philosopher is not to get it, is to be in the past, to look for it, to live, to try to find it It's always here. It's the process and not only the result. So every one of us, from the moment we are looking for the meaning of our life, we become philosopher. And you have some people who are going to the university or to the academy just to learn what other philosophers or ancient philosophers wrote or said, but they don't have the meaning. So they're not philosophers. They're learning about philosophy, but there is a big difference between learning about philosophy and being a philosopher. Of course, you can do the both, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's very interesting idea in the book that to show the invisible, you are using a medium like photography, which is all about visible, which is all about the very essence of photography is to record something. And also, as Roland Barthes had said, that this is the very norm of photography. The essence of photography is that what you see, it has been there. And you are using photography as a medium to show us something that is not there. So, I mean, I find this as quite an exciting idea, but somehow I'm still failing to grasp not being able to grasp hold of this entire idea in that sense.
I won't say that I'm using photography to grasp something that is not there. I will say that I try to use photography to capture something which is there, but which is not visible to the visible eyes. But if it is not there, I cannot catch it. It is there. It is into the contrast. It is into the harmony of the geometrical forms. It is into the paradox. It is into the light and the shadow, the relation between the light and the shadow. It is there, but we don't see it. So I cannot also see it. I can just have the intuition of this to capture it. And after I've captured it, I can try to look at it. But it is there. It is invisible, but it is there.
Yeah, and then earlier you spoke about the subjectivity of the photographer, and you also mentioned in the book that it's not of great importance because you say that it's not the photographer who's actually making the image. But when you say that, I think it's a very provocative idea, because when you put something like this, then you're essentially saying that photography is not art, because photography's claim to art is this subjectivity. We all say that, hey, I have got a subjective view of something, and that's why what you look here is art. But when what you propose in your book is quite a contrasting idea to that. So how do you still see photography as an art and still not see subjectivity in it?
I think art, for me, is something which is not subjective but objective. Okay, I mean, art, like I said at the beginning, beauty is a concept. Beauty is a metaphysical concept. It exists by itself, like truth, like good, etc. Those are the four archetypes or ideas from Plato, for example. Okay. Now, beauty exists. Let's say that beauty exists. Okay. But we all are human beings, and we are not objective. Okay? Because we are all subjective. Now, we may try to be more and more objective, to get out of our subjectivity, but we shall never get it. We shall never reach it. I can be more objective, but I will never be 0% subjective. Because human being is mixed about two very different things. If I recall the same 7 levels that we talked before, I would say that Atman, Buddhi, Manas, the soul, was not born, will not die. What is not born cannot die. Okay? So it is the sentiment of immortality. It is the sentiment of immortality we can have if we identify with our soul. But our personality, our physical body was born, changed, and will die. Maybe there will be another reincarnation, maybe not, it's another problem. But this one was born surely, and this one will die surely. Same thing with our energy, emotions, and intellect. Our opinions change all the time. Our feelings change all the time. So one part of us is temporary, is all the time, and it is our subjectivity, because our subjectivity changes all the time. Okay. Another part of us was not born, will not die, does not change, stay the same. Good. and cannot evolve because it's always perfect in the beginning. So how shall you bring together the temporary and the eternal? They have some very different needs. The needs of the temporary is not the needs of the internal. One, for example, the subjectivity, the temporary, has no time because he knows that he will die. So he's looking for the result. Now I want the result because I don't have time. I want now to have the result. But the soul is not so much attached to the result. It's much more patience. But it's all the time in the world and not in this life, in the next life. It's not a problem, you see. So they're different opposite. And this is objectivity, or more linked to the objectivity, and this is linked to the subjectivity. So all the process to try to be more and more and more objective is to identify ourselves more with the soul and less with the mask, less with the apparency, the personality. And if I produce something, there will be always, in any art production, a part of objectivity and a part of subjectivity. Now, the objectivity will be beauty, objective beauty. This will be the artistic part. But I myself can recognize it or no. Maybe I have a mask so strong that I will not recognize the art. I will say it doesn't talk to me. This doesn't speak to me. I don't like this. At the opposite, I can produce something which is so much subjective that it is all the production of my subjectivity, and there is nearly no objective beauty inside. And I can say, I like it because this subjectivity talks with my subjectivity. You understand? So I can like something which is art. I cannot like something which is art. I can produce something which is not art. I can like something which is not art and put it in my house. I can be indifferent on something which is art and not put it in my life. In bottom line, like as a human being, I don't think we can formally say this is art, this is not art. We don't have the power to do this. We have to accept that time will be judged. Because if something is art, it will survive the change of culture, the change of paradigm, the change of fashions, the change of how we think. And 100, 200, 300 years after, in consideration that the paper will still be there, which is for the acid in the day, today, maybe the paper will vanish. But if the support is already there, it will continue to speak to the people who were looking at it, or music to the people who were hearing it, because there is something transcendent, there is something non-subjective. I'm not against people that make subjective product and like it, it's okay. But don't call this art.
Yeah, okay. On that note, maybe we can open the floor for questions. Okay. Anybody out there? Yes, please.
You have spoken about photography. Now regarding still photography and movie photography, colored versus black and white, digital versus conventional photography with film we used to put in, stereoscopic 3D photography versus 2D photography.
Color photography or black and white photography?
Versus black and white.
Why I use black and white? That's the question.
No, which is better of the two? Which will gives you more perception?
I don't think one is better than the other one. If you see in my pictures, for example, my photography, maybe 70% of my photographies are black and white, but I have still something like 30%, let's say. Not exactly, I don't know, but some photographies in color. Why? First I take the picture without recognizing. And after I'm looking at the picture and I ask myself, what will emphasis the most important. Now, I am trying to follow the path of Henri Cartier-Bresson in this way when he said that the most important is the geometry. The most important is the number, the golden proportion. The most important is the relation between shadows and light. And he said something interesting. He said that for him, color is like a perfume. You know, it's a spice. It's like you make rice and you put spices, but the most important is the rice. You cannot eat only spices without the rice. So you can eat rice without the spices. So spices is okay, but you have to have the rice. So the rice is the geometry, is the form. And in most of the pictures I took, until now at least, I feel that if I wipe the color and emphasize a little bit the contrast, I emphasize this geometrical relation. So I do it. Now, there are other pictures where it doesn't work. For example, if you have imagined that you can have a pink or red dot on a black wall, or this one, for example, with all the colors you have here, if I put it in black and white, it doesn't work. So I leave it in color. I'm just trying to look for, and for each picture is different, what will emphasize the geometrical relation. Sometimes it's color, sometimes it's black and white.
In 3D photograph versus 2D photography. 3D photography.
I have no experience of 3D photography, so I cannot tell. I don't know. I can tell only of what I have the experience. I cannot tell of something I don't know. This I don't know.
Clouds behind the sun.
I only do still photographies and street photography. The rest I cannot tell.
Philosophy, there's your own process that you call a philosophical process to life, and you use the camera as part of that. And there's the philosophy in the image. Do you give that as much importance, that when you photograph, there's a philosophy going on in that image that you're photographing? Like, for instance, the one at the back of you. Is there some kind, if you decode the image, is there some kind of meaningful philosophy in it for you?
Okay. Asking if there is a philosophy in the image. I will say yes, but. Yes, but. There is a meaning, like you say, philosophy, in the images I produce. This was last January in Korea, in Seoul, in South Korea. It's at the entrance of the National Museum of Archaeology. So I see here a meaning. I see here a relation. I see here depth. But I will never try to describe it. Because if I describe it with words, I will reduce the meaning. Because the metaphysical meaning is beyond the words. The words are limiting. So I prefer people to look at it and to feel it or not, but to discover it by themselves. Because also there is something else. Let's say that I could, with words, explain the meaning. First, it will be a little bit subjective meaning, because it's my understanding of the meaning. And a symbol is always more than what one person can understand. So if there is something here, you could maybe find something more that I can. So I don't want to describe it. And the other thing is that if I give you the signification, because I explain it, you will not have to find it. So it's like giving you the result, and by giving you the result, I prevent you to leave the process. And the most important is the process, it's not the result. So I will not explain it.
Hi, I love your part about intuition. It was very interesting to listen to that. Intuition is very important, and the way you described it was beautiful. For an artist, it's all about telling a story that's not told, telling an aspect which is not seen before. But for you, what inspires you when you don't even know what's going to be, what you're going to be looking at, and what it's all going to be about? What inspires you to express your art? Or what inspires you to just get up in the morning and go for it?
Life. I mean, life is all. And I'm really trying not to sing to something specific. Because if I'm walking in the morning and go to try to sing to something specific, like I explained with the luck, I will, I will find myself in a way that I'm looking for something, I will not see the other opportunity. I think that life is full of surprises. Life is full of beauties. And one of the things I like the most, or which give me the most emotion in life, is human being. Because human being is like a microcosmos. It's like a synthesis of all the life. And you have a lot of things in relation with human beings. And it's interesting because to capture the essence of human being, in my opinion, it goes a lot through the eyes. You can see the soul of somebody through the eyes, and the eyes is linked to the light, and light is photography. So I'm trying to approach people. I like people. That's what inspires me.
Thank you. Sure.
I didn't understand the question.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please? We don't have much time. Can you repeat the question? Right. Okay. Maybe we can skip that for that moment. Thanks so much. So one last question before we wrap up the discussion. Sorry, we don't have time now. So there's a very moving passage in your book, in the last segment of your book, where you talk about politics and religion, and then you come to describe what is the role of the artist. So can you talk a little bit about what is to be an artist in today's world, and what it means to be an artist and create something?
I think that to be an artist today includes what I would say, what you remind that I wrote, something like a political responsibility. Politic is trying to organize the human space where humans are living in a just way, in a right way, in an harmonic way, in a beautiful way. If we come back to the meaning of the word politic, it's polis, etika. Now, polis is the city in Greece. The polis is the place where human beings are living. This school of philosophy, which is in Bombay with Yaron, which Yaron has created, is called Acropolis, New Acropolis. Acro is an upper, so the upper city. And the meaning of the upper city is the place of the virtues, the place of the values, the place of the beauty, the place of the harmony, the place of life. And ethic, polis etika, ethic, ethic are rules, but not moral rules. There is a difference between moral rules and ethical rules. Moral are rules that are temporary, moral change. Something is considered moral today, but was not 100 years ago, maybe will not in 100 years. Moral is changing with the culture. Ethic does not change. Ethic is the rules of nature. Something is ethical, something is just, was, is, and will be. So policetica, politic, is the ability to organize the city according to the ethic rules, according to the truth, according to the beauty and the harmony. And it is the only way, I think, to help human being be a better human being. The problem is, to be a politician, you must be first a philosopher. Because to organize the city according to the ethic or to the truth, you must first discover the ethic or discover the truth. And this is the role of the philosopher. The big problem is that today, in most of the world, I don't know in India, I don't know Modi, but generally in most of the world, there are many few politicians who are philosophers. And they are trying, most of them, to impose their own subjectivity and opinion, and not the ethic, not the right. So, artist is somebody who will encounter this truth, this harmony, not through the philosophy maybe, but through the beauty. Okay, but we said already that which has beauty is good, is just, and is right. I mean, those are the four channels: mystica, politica, artist, and science, but science also in another way, not as we define it today, but it's the four way to encounter this center, this essential, this life. And if you are an artist, you will influence the city with the beauty, so you will approach the right. And in a way, it is a politician responsibility, because we will change the way the city will organize itself. So it's not it's not something which does not have responsibility to be an artist, because more you will be transparent, more you will help people to be transparent also. It can work inconsciently. It can work, it will work inconsciently, and it will need, I don't know how many times, but surely more than the time that we have in our single life. But it's not important. I mean, here also, the most important is the process, not the result. If you are on the process, you are already alive. And what I'm trying to do is to have people being alive and found their own path. I think this is the meaning of life.
On that note, thank you so much, Pierre. It was a great conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amit.